Well, man, it's great to catch up with you. I'm looking forward to getting into Breakthrough. Thank you for sending over the music. I just got it. It's wonderful. So
Thanks.
I had
Yeah.
it physically. I got it in the mail, but it's always
Oh,
good to
okay.
have it digitally. So I appreciate it. And
Sure.
before we get into Breakthrough, I'm curious. I know that COVID is in the rearview mirror, but it was such a monumental thing for the music world, for musicians. How much of surviving that time period has reverberated and affect you in this new 2025 we've stepped into?
Hmm. Well, it definitely uh kind of actually kind of slowed my momentum. I think I feel like in hindsight, like I was kind of real busy and I had bunch of I have a record that came out in 2020 March and a couple records that came out and they kind of just they came out and but yeah, I was playing a lot and everything kind of slowed down and I've been trying to kind of pick it back up again, and kind of get up back to where I was at there. But there was also some kind of cool stuff that happened because of it, most of it having to do with just like connecting with my immediate family, so that was nice. And I got a chance to like kind of start to tackle trumpet from a different perspective. I started taking some lessons, more lessons when I kind of had stopped. So, and that kind of happened at the very end of it, but then it's continued. So I'm like kind of like re-investigating the trumpet and trying to figure out new techniques and or just kind of work on that. So yeah, it was what it was.
Yeah.
It was challenging and it was challenging and kind of good in certain ways, but I'm glad it's over and I'm glad we're out playing again, for the public. That's good.
I interviewed way more musicians during that time period, especially from March through the end of that year, and even through the years there. And what kept striking me was in the world of art and the world of creating music, jazz musicians are used to improv. You're used to getting thrown into uncertainty. And it seemed like, as bad as that time period was, COVID was kind of the time period that jazz musicians have been used to their whole lives.
Having to like yeah, roll with the punches, you mean?
Totally. Pivot, figure it out, come up with
Yeah.
something new. I mean, because you do it on the spot all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was fortunate that I was able to keep teaching online, which
Yeah,
was that was great. And I guess, there was money coming in from the government stimulus packages and my wife was actually able to work too. So we were lucky in that regard. But yeah, I ended up I don't know, I can't say I was actually as productive as I think I wish I would have been, but it was a challenging time just to kind of figure out what the heck is going on.
yeah,
So yeah, but I agree with you. Yeah, it was definitely like a lot of jazz musicians, were able to figure all this stuff out, and
for
people who were
sure.
people who were teaching were able to teach generally, and then people who were just playing only kind of that was rough for them, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I've been teaching for the last 15, 20 years, so it's
yeah.
yeah.
And it seemed like that was a saving grace for a lot of people having those gigs.
Hmm.
So, Breakthrough, talk to me a little bit about this kind of merging of, jazz and minimalism, kind of the vision and how this album feels.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you about it. Yeah, so I've been working with this Wide Hive, this record label based in Berkeley, and I've done 3 records for him, and we're scheduled to do a fourth. And I pitched the idea of, hey, can we do something that's just in the studio, like kind of like overdubs, like not because the other ones we've done as jazz records, like live one day, go into the studio, and then we're done. Um, and I've written a bunch of classical, well, whatever, pseudo classical music for classical groups that were more like jazz influenced. And I had all this music that I had written, and I was thinking like, how am I ever going to get this? I love playing this. I love writing it. How am I ever going to get it recorded? So I pitched it to Wide Hive Records, and he said, "Let's do it." So we ended up spending, months, if not over a year, putting this album together. Like, slowly adding each piece, bringing in the woodwinds one day, bringing in the strings another day, bringing in the French horn for a certain day, or the French horn and trombone for a day, and and then finally adding most of the trumpet parts at the very end, generally. But Yeah, it's just a chance for me to like I think record and play the music that I really feel is I mean that I love playing that I haven't had a chance to play because it's difficult to put together a chamber orchestra, number one, and then number two, it doesn't really fit into that many categories. Of It's not like straight ahead jazz. You can't play it in a straight ahead jazz club. It's not classical either. You don't really play it in like a classical setting. So it's kind of like a hybrid. So I'm really thankful that it's out there and trying to do more of it. You know, trying to we are doing more actually. We're recording like a whole 4-part series with the chamber orchestra now with jazz musicians kind of improvising and playing chamber music. So it's really fun. I'm
Yeah.
thankful it's out there. Yeah.
What are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this album?
Um, well, I hope they enjoy the sounds that they're hearing. I think overall the music is pretty. It's I think one of the things that I have characteristics I have is lyrical quality, like kind of like singable melodies. Um, um, and Yeah, just something to like kind of take joy in, I suppose, like enjoy the music.
Yeah.
Good for driving through the California coastline.
Yeah, totally. So take me back to the beginnings. How did this journey into the trumpet and more specifically into jazz become your life? How did this happen?
I grew up in Berkeley, California, and started playing trumpet in fourth grade. And Berkeley has a really great public school music program, and it still does. A lot of fantastic jazz musicians have come through Berkeley. And Yeah, they start you improvising in fourth grade. So you're improvising fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then by the time you get to high school, if you're like really into it, there's the jazz band, and that's really fantastic. A ton of great musicians, a lot of whom have gone on to become professional musicians, were in there with me, and so I knew freshman year of high school that I was going to be a musician, and I told my parents, and they tried to be not uh, shocked and dismayed, but they ultimately supported me, and yeah, so I went to Oberlin Conservatory of Music and studied trumpet there. Got a chance to write a little bit, and then I moved to New Orleans for 4 years. Did a lot of writing there, a lot of playing there. Kind of just enjoyed being a freelance musician and played in different bands, all different styles, and then moved to New York for 5 years and got even more experience playing in various bands, and put out my first real record there, with some great musicians. I lived in Brooklyn for 5 years, and then finally came back here and did what I kind of really had been leaning towards, was the classical music, kind of studying that a little more intensely. So I got to go to San Francisco Conservatory of Music and wrote for classical musicians in classical ensembles, and got real into that. And that's where a lot of this music came from, really, is kind of like I didn't write much of it during my time there, but I wrote it kind of afterwards. I was kind of involved in some composers chamber orchestras. I wrote a piece for them, and then I had my own like string group that had like strings in it, and I still do. And Yeah, I started writing a bunch of that for that. And yeah, what was the question again?
You answered it like kind of how it
Okay.
all evolved and
Yeah.
and kind of became who you are today. That was a wonderful abstract. So I'm curious, what was the first live jazz show you saw that made you think, "Wow, I love what they're doing," or "I want to hop up there one day and do that"?
Oh, I can remember very vividly Freddie Hubbard,
Wow.
1987, probably at Kimball's in San Francisco. And Yeah, Freddie Hubbard at that time was playing his butt off, just killing it. And I saw him probably about over the course of like from 1987 to 1989 or 90. I would see him whenever he was in town.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, there's no, you can't really get any better than that as far as like just energy and creativity and soulfulness and playing the trumpet and charisma. And it was pretty amazing, and I got real into him and his music. And I still remember there was one occasion when he was playing with Joe Henderson, and the two of them like played that tune Bolivia, uh, and Joe Henderson took like an incredible solo that you think, how can anybody top that? And then Freddie Hubbard came in and topped it, like, and I remember still I was like laughing because I couldn't really I couldn't take what was happening. I was just like
Right.
laughing, like I was
Yeah.
just laughing uncontrollably because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I remember my dad kind of looking at me like, what? What's going on with him? But it was so powerful that that's all I could do was just like, from joy. And so I still, yeah, those are the experiences that really like blew me away, like just that energy that those guys had. And I'm thankful I got a chance to check them out when they were really, really dealing.
It's funny you vocalize it that way because I've been at shows before too where I'm just I take my wife to them because she has grown to love jazz and she's there and I'll do that too. My spontaneous thing is like, oh my God. Like I remember seeing Allison Miller on the drum kit for the first time and I could not believe how powerful it was. Just
Mm-hmm.
blew me away. The one thing about Freddie is I think about Maynard Ferguson on the trumpet. Like he was like, even in the recordings, it's just bam, it's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of that too. Was Freddie just real like that trumpet? Did that horn just tear through the crowd?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. He was very and it was a very physical, like, he was wearing like tight suits, and he was like, he's like really like big and like strong, and just
Yes.
like, and you could like kind of like see the air coming out of the horn. And it was, like, I still think it's pretty difficult for anyone to replicate that level of playing.
Yeah.
That's like he was a singular, unique force. There's a few people, I suppose, Louis Armstrong, Miles Davis, Freddie Hubbard, Clifford Brown, that can play trumpet like that. But it was, and he actually, now that I'm in hindsight, I'm kind of realize how lucky I was to witness that,
Yeah.
because it's really special. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he was
Um,
kind of like a tightrope walker, daredevil, just like, no holds barred, going for it, like dripping sweat, just like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You know, um, I'm in Kansas City, and I work in a school district. My day job is in a suburb called Grandview, and one of the graduates was Mark Pender, who was in the Conan O'Brien band, and
Oh,
I've seen him at a clinic here, and he always does that signature, rearing up and doing his thing, and he's powerful.
oh,
I always remember that from
yeah,
him. It just
yeah.
punched the air in a completely different way.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah. That's
that's
right.
wild.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. Cool.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What is it that motivates you every day to wake up to do this work? I mean, you got a part of you that's educating the future, the next generation, but you're also recording and laying music down. What gets you up every day? What is the ultimate motivator for you to evolve and be at the top of your game?
Well, like, as Duke Ellington said, you need to have a deadline. So, I'm fortunate that I have deadlines. And thankful that I have deadlines. That's what kind of keeps me going. I mean, I have a big band that plays it once every month. It's called the Electric Squeezebox Orchestra,
Yeah.
and we play in Berkeley, second Sunday of every month. So I always have, if I'm at loose ends, I always have a big band to write for, and a really good big band. And then, if I have work, people have hired me to do arranging, then I have that. I've always got trumpet. It'll be till the day I die. I'll be trying to play the trumpet better. And then, right now I've got yeah, like I said, I've got these chamber orchestra pieces I'm trying to write for another recording in March, which I'm getting close to finishing. And I did love it. I mean, it's not always the easiest thing to do, to sit down and write but and practice trumpet, but I'd rather be doing that than most other things. And I love teaching. It's a nice counterbalance to get with a group of people or a singular person and just work on music with them. I mean, that's super fun too. So That and I have a couple kids who are great, and I'm enjoying like raising them, and we have a decent place here in the Bay Area. So I feel very lucky actually
Yeah.
to be doing this right now. So I'm thankful. Yeah. Also, I'll keep it going as long as I can.
Totally. So let me ask you this. You've been at this for a while. You played with a lot of players. You've obviously had a lot of experiences seeing people like Freddie Hubbard, this collective jazz encyclopedia, so to speak. What are you ultimately trying to teach the youth, the kids that you're teaching? What do you want them to get to understand about this music and about being a part of this jazz community?
Well, I'm just trying to help each person just like get some joy out of the music, however that does, however that strikes them, whether it's, if they can play their instrument a little bit better and they could fit in with the ensemble and play in tune, or whether or not they can, start to figure out how to express themselves, and play simple solos in the right and kind of keep their place and play in the right key, or whether they're like writing music for orchestras, and they're like wanting to like refine, or have me take a look and offer my 2 cents about what I would do next. Yeah, so it's whatever it is for each person. I hope to help them out. And yeah, I mean, it's always, as you're teaching, you're always learning too. So I'm like, oh, that's those are some really cool chords that this kid wrote. Like I should try to use some of those, more of those types of chords. Or like as I'm telling this trumpet player, like make sure your head is the right place. I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should work on that too. It's like
Yeah.
so I'm constantly learning myself by teaching and thinking about like how in the back of my mind I'm like, well, are you doing this too, or can you do this too? So yeah, it's different, but the main thing about teaching is like I don't know, if I'm not very like strict, or like I'm not a hard ass. I'm kind of like I just as kids come in and they haven't practiced, I'm just like, well, let's do what we can. Let's work on it, and I want everybody just to leave the lesson like kind of like happy and feeling like they've I expect them to work. I don't expect them to like goof off, but I like want them to be happy and feel like they've accomplished something, and be happy about playing music, because ultimately like playing music is one of those things that it really can change your whole vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's and hearing good music can do the same thing too. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to be a part of that world where creating good music and helping people create good music. Yeah,
Well, the first part of what you said was joy. Speaking of joy, why do you love this art form we call jazz?
well, yeah, it gives you the ability to express yourself when you're improvising, and it's very challenging. It's like once you've kind of dedicated your life to it, you enter this community of people who really have an appreciation for this type of music. And so I love being part of the community of jazz musicians who have we have their own, everybody has their own language. The jazz musicians have their own language and way of talking, and references, and yeah, I can think of no or very few better feelings than like being on a bandstand, and particularly playing my own music with like amazing musicians, and hearing it come to life. I mean, it's like kind of what I'm here for in life, I guess.
Yeah.
It's an incredible feeling. So I wish it upon anybody who can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's needle into you, Erik. At the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, fans, students, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I think I'm number one, very like kind of steady and hardworking and focused, and I think I'm a good band leader and kind of producer. After countless gigs, I feel more comfortable being in front of an audience and talking and like leading a band, and I think I'm good at like programming sets and hiring musicians. And so I think, yeah, I'm not the most flashy type performer, but I'm content to like kind of be a writer and a player and kind of an instigator, I'd say,
Yeah.
so maybe that's kind of like what I'm doing here. And then, as part of that, I'm like kind of helping the young folks in the Bay Area who are interested, especially in the East Bay, through the Jazzschool where I work in Berkeley.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If anyone wants to pick up a copy of Breakthrough that will benefit you the most, where's the best place to do that?
Um, Probably through the record label website, which is Wide Hive,
Okay.
widehive.com. But I suppose like picking it up on Amazon or any other place. But yeah, I'd say Wide Hive would be ideal.
Okay.
Widehive.com. Yeah.
What about live shows? Anything else going on in your world? Where do they go?
My website, erikjekabson.com, and it's spelled very differently. ErikJekabson.com. There's a few Erik Jekabsons out there, and they're all good musicians. And but yeah, mine's spelled I'd say the most unconventionally.
Yeah.
So they can pick up stuff there. Yeah, I've got a website, I've got a calendar.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
will put all that in the show notes. Erik, it's great to talk to you about the album, your life and music. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate meeting you digitally, and thanks for the interview. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.